Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
And a happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate. We got our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson in here from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. What are you drinking there,
coffee.
Dude? Okay.
99 cents on the McDonald's app. Had to go get it.
Wow, look at you, dude. Look at you. Just rocking it. Should have had Dukes pick up a to-go order, just run it to our houses here, too. So, all right, there's a lot of things to get into here, but the NBA is drunk, just all across the board. And last night, man, the Wolves got an assist from the Spurs, who knocked off Golden State. Big game tonight for the Wolves in Memphis, so we'll sort the standings out in like 24 or 48 hours. But you've now had Memphis firing a really credible high-end coach a few weeks ago in Taylor Jenkins, and then Denver firing both Mike Malone and Calvin Booth, cleaning out their entire organization with 3 games to go on their schedule. So we've been kind of on flagrant howls. We've been kind of speculating. You know, Chris Finch oversaw one of the most historically awful blown leads in the history of the NBA on the same day, like 5 hours after Mike Malone got fired and thus is available for next season. Tim Connelly and Mike Malone have a great connection there. So I guess just broadly, beyond the game tonight against the Grizzlies, do you think the Mike Malone firing has anything to do with the Timberwolves in the next 6 months? Not like the immediate firing, but do you think there's going to be any connection there between Tim Connelly and Mike Malone that maybe Chris Finch will have to worry about?
All right, Phil, coming out firing bullets on this Reckless Speculation Thursday. So 1 year ago, last spring, Chris Finch put pen to paper on a lucrative contract extension. Now, I get it. Mark and Alex have all sorts of money. When you've got Eric Schmidt in your back pocket, Michael Bloomberg, the equity firm, right? Money's not an issue. But unless the Wolves fail miserably come late April into early May, like lose 4-0 in the first round, or perhaps if they end up in the play-in, not even making the playoffs, I would say let's circle back. But right now, I have no sense that Chris Finch is in any sort of trouble. Let's also remind the audience, Phil, that let's go back, 2 months, OKC in February. The Wolves were down 24 points, just under 11 minutes to go, came back, tied the game in regulation, won in overtime. Back in December in Houston, down 16, under 5 minutes to go, came back and won. This team, even on a nightly basis, you just don't know. In-game basis, you just don't know what version is going to show up. It is the most roller coaster of a season that I can recall. I'm trying to avoid hyperbole in the moment, all that. I'm trying to have some perspective, thinking back many, many years, but we just don't know on a nightly basis what Wolves team is going to show up. But on the Malone portion of this conversation, there is no doubt in my mind that Tim Connelly still has a very, 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 very healthy opinion of how good a coach Mike Malone is. But I just don't think in this moment that Chris Finch is in trouble. I think it's the other way. Now, I think The Athletic actually put this out there in the Twitter sphere and on their website and all that on the app. It's something we went back and forth on via text on Tuesday, that I had multiple NBA people immediately after the news broke that Calvin Booth was also out in Denver, wondering to me, bringing up, hey, Tim still has a very healthy opinion, speaking of healthy opinions, of Denver and the Nuggets organization. Now, I don't exactly know where Tim's relationship with the Cronkies stands, but the idea that the Cronkies at least make an attempt to bring Tim back, to me, that's more plausible than right now Mike Malone taking over coaching the Wolves. Doesn't mean that Tim is leaving. In fact, let's remind everybody, we've talked about this for years. Tim is here because of Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez. They are going to pay him, but he does have that opt-out, smartly so. Brilliant move by him, his representation. He has that opt-out this summer. So technically, he is able to be a free agent, have conversations with other organizations. So to me, that's a little bit more fascinating in the moment than the idea of Mike Malone taking over the Wolves.
So on Connelly too, he came here because he was offered more. Correct. He was I believe had the GM title in Denver. He's got the Pro Bowl one here. So what would I guess my question is with the Cronkies, because we don't know. Like, clearly there was an opportunity to stay. Clearly that the Cronkies could have done everything in their power to stop him from departing. They did not. So I do wonder, considering that Glenn is not going to run the Wolves and Connelly came here to work specifically with the guys that are, what that relationship is like, and if he would want to go back. And also, Doogie, didn't he get at least a very small piece of the team here as well? I thought that was part of the deal at the time, that he got a small sliver of ownership stake in the Timberwolves franchise.
Yeah, well, and that was based on team success. Now, hey, they make a run to the Western Conference Finals last year. That's actually a very interesting point that you bring up, Judd. Let me dig on that, on where that stands with this ownership transaction. And I don't know if it was technically ownership, like the Saunders family has 0.002% of ownership, or it was more just a massive bonus. You know, maybe we're getting into semantics, terminology, how the contract is written. But certainly, the better the Wolves do, the more lucrative it is for Tim Connelly. But yes, that is very, very interesting to think about. I don't know where the relationship stands, the Cronkies and Connelly. Clearly, they could have paid him. They could have found a way to keep him. It's not like he had some sort of massive falling out there in Denver. But money isn't an issue. Like, look at the Cronkies' background. I mean, if they want to pay a Pobo $15 million a year, like, that's not an issue whatsoever. And so maybe they thought, because my understanding is when Tim and Mike worked together in Denver, that Mike had a pretty good say in roster management, that Tim was all about collaboration. It wasn't a dictatorship. And maybe they thought with Calvin making the transition one step up, Calvin was there in the front office, that synergy would continue. But clearly it did not. Like, Mike and Calvin just were never on the same page. But yeah, it's interesting. It's something that's pretty much going to be on my radar, put it that way, until Denver figures out what it's going to do. Now, hey, to me, the smart move for Denver, you hire Wolves general manager Matt Lloyd, then allow him to hire Mike Inori. Like, that, to me, maybe I'm biased, but Mike Inori deserves an opportunity. Matt deserves an opportunity. Nearly got the Charlotte Hornets Pobo job a year ago. I'm just saying, if Denver is smart, like, they couldn't go wrong doing that. Hiring Matt Lloyd, who then hires Mike Inori.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of moving parts that I certainly have my eyes on.
Dude, I think just one more thing on the Finch thing, because there's a very vocal portion of the fan base, especially after that loss the other night, that's just fed up with the late game execution stuff, the out of timeout chaos at different points in the season. And so I think, like, we kind of parsed apart two questions regarding Finch on Flagrant Howls earlier this week. Number one, why are the Wolves so awful in clutch time? They've lost a league-leading 26 clutch time games this year. They have the 25th, I believe, net rating in clutch time. They were 27th net rating in clutch time last year in the regular season. So, you know, I know that, like, in the Denver series, in the playoffs, they've all of a sudden became this force in clutch time. So it's like when they want to and when they move the ball, there are flashes for this team. But why are they so bad in clutch time, and how much of the blame does Finch bear versus just maybe some low IQ players trying to decipher this? And then number two, more of a bigger picture question. Chris Finch has been instrumental in helping to build the current culture, to get this team to be one of the more competitive teams in the NBA for the last handful of years. Major credit to Chris Finch. If the next level is winning a championship with an Anthony Edwards-led team, is Chris Finch that guy? Or is Chris Finch the Mark Jackson to Steph Curry? Is he the Del Harris for Kobe and Shaq? Is he the Doug Collins for Michael Jordan? And you're looking for the next guy to take this to 60-plus wins in a championship.
All right, are you sure that Malone is that guy? I guess we could say
don't know.
maybe it's Taylor Jenkins.
I don't
I mean,
know.
Taylor's
Yeah.
going to get another job, snap of the finger, so we could have that conversation. Or is it Mike Brown? Or is it Stan Van Gundy? Or someone else that's readily available? I think it's a fair conversation to have. I mean, like the other night in Milwaukee, I'm screaming at the TV saying, where's Naw? Like, give Nickeil Alexander-Walker a chance. I can absolutely make a case. He's been one of their 5 best players this year. I don't have the net ratings in front of me, so if you want to offer some blowback on that,
I think you're right.
fine. But I'm a big Naw fan, and it's going to be, to me, unfortunate. I think he's going to end up elsewhere in the summer. Like, you hire a new agent for that very reason. Like, you're going to get the full mid-level for 4 years. I just don't know if the Wolves are going to do that when you have Jalen Clark, when you have Terrence Shannon Jr. But regardless, in the moment, like, Naw should have played more in the fourth quarter on Tuesday. So I have all sorts of issues with how he manages his bench, the 5-man rotations he puts out there. And you're right, Phil. I mean, the body of work now, we're talking a very large sample size of clutch time poop, right? I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, right?
Yeah, it's
like
bad.
they have stunk. Like, think about it. Like, if they just had 4 more wins out of all those clutch time losses. And clutch time, by the way, a reminder, a game within 5 points, 5 minutes or less to go. You add just 4 or 5 more wins. We're talking about what? The 3 seed? Maybe as high as the 2 seed? When we knew it was going to be a little clunky early in the year, that it was going to take some time with Julius, with Dante over the course of 20 to 25-ish games. They still would have had a chance. So I get it. I just don't know, though, who's eating that money. I really don't. I mean, we're talking many, many millions of dollars. Then to bring in Malone, we're talking many, many millions of dollars. Now, maybe Mark and Alex would say, who cares? We have the money. It doesn't matter. That what you're saying, Phil, is absolutely correct, that we're ready for that coach to take us to that very next level. I guess I need more evidence that Malone is absolutely that guy, that Finch can't be that guy. But I understand it. I get it. So maybe I'm a bit of a Finch apologist just because I like him so much as a human being, as a person.
Agreed.
So I understand my bias, in this conversation, but I don't know if Mark and Alex have the appetite to eat all that money. That to me is the bottom line.
Here's my question off of that, though. Who is the coach? And again, if they fire Finch and it's Malone, this is all reckless speculation. But who's the coach who's going to get the most from Ant? Like, what's the thing that gives Ant the best chance? Because he's a marvelous player. His 3-point shooting has been much improved. His overall game, as we've discussed previously, has regressed a bit. But he is still, I don't know that he's 23. I don't know that he's at the maturity on the court that you would consistently want. So like to go through Phil's list, when we're talking about Collins to Phil Jackson, right? That was a Jordan thing. The Magic thing. So what is the key to unlocking Ant as much as you possibly can to win a championship when it comes to who is his head coach?
Yeah, I mean, it starts and ends there, right? I mean, that's it. That's the question. Now, I can tell you, Ant and Finch absolutely have a really good relationship. Like, Finch can coach Ant incredibly hard. Yep. It almost reminds me of Pop with Duncan back in the day, where Pop could mother F Duncan left and right, and Duncan accepted it. Like, Finch can really, really coach Ant hard. Now, maybe Ant's personality lends itself to Malone could do the same thing. Jenkins could do the same thing, but I don't know if I'm willing to roll those dice. But again, they get swept 4-0 or perhaps somehow miss the playoffs. I'm fair in saying let's revisit this. But I just think that Finch-Ant relationship is so darn good. Right now, I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah. Hey, a different type of Wolves question here, but Naz Reid was thriving in the starting lineup. He's had a couple nice little, his shooting has come back a little bit recently, but he kind of hit the skids there for a couple weeks, and there was actually one of the recent games where I can't remember which one it was, like the Wolves hit a big shot or something, and there is a video from the crowd of like everyone on the Wolves bench is going crazy, and there's Naz kind of in the background showing some sulking body language because he was 0 for 5 from 3. I think he's generally a great, highly respected teammate, so I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. But where do you think things stand now with Naz Reid going into free agency. He's going to decline his $15 million player option. Do you think he's priority number one to bring back? Is he $25, $30 million a year? I guess what's your read on Naz Reid long-term at this point?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's $30 million a year. I mean, what did Anunoby get from the New York Knicks? Not to suggest that Naz and Anunoby are super similar players, but you look at what Anunoby got, what, 5 years?
5-2-12. 5-2-12.
Okay, so, I mean, if Anunoby's getting 5-2-12.
Wow.
I mean, Naz is more than 25. I'm not suggesting Naz is 5-2-12, but isn't he closer to Anunoby than he is to 25 million
That's a lot
per year? I mean, the idea all along has been to pay him that they know the market is 30 million or more per year. I just don't know if this recent 20-game sample size skews those thoughts. I actually like a lot of the shots that Naz has gotten to. I get it. It's a make or miss sport, make or miss league. I don't have a problem with the shots he's taken. I trust over the long haul, he's going to make a good portion of those shots. Just hasn't shot the ball well the last handful of weeks. But I've not heard anything to suggest that the plan has been altered, changed, anything like that. That the idea all along when they moved Cat was to ensure that Naz is here long term.
On that note, too, Dukes, how much do you think that what eventually takes place, hopefully for the Wolves' sake, in the playoffs, will have to do and play a role in the 2025-26 roster construction too?
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying, Judd, or alluding to, is if they lose 4-0 or 4-1 or 4-2, how does that change things? I mean, we know Julius Randle has the player option. You know, somebody emailed me the other day, a loyal listener / viewer, saying, what about Detroit? That the Pistons had legit trade interest in Julius before the Knicks moved him here. I just don't know if JB Bickerstaff right now is interested in having Julius Randle on his roster. Now, that could be subject to change. If the Pistons lose 4-0, let's say it's Pistons-Knicks in the first round. Knicks win 4-0. I'm willing to revisit this portion of the equation, but I just don't sense right now JB is gung-ho on coaching Julius. So, like, who is going to have cap space? Brooklyn? I haven't heard any Julius Randle Brooklyn steam. So where exactly would Julius go? So to me, it makes sense for Julius to opt in. So he comes back at 30 million plus. Now, is he a trade chip for Kevin Durant?
That's what I was going to bring up. Because Dukes, Phoenix,
that makes a ton of sense.
Phoenix is 100% moving Durant. They are the most expensive team stuck in the second apron. Even going into the cap going up, they're still stuck in the second apron. So Phoenix is going to want to shed, I don't have the math in front of me, but like $20 plus million to get out of the second apron. And the gap between Julius's opt-in final year and Durant's contract is like $25 million. So, and if you're Phoenix isn't looking, it sounds like, according to reporting, they want to keep Devin Booker. Devin Booker wants to stay, and they want to just kind of reload around Devin Booker and get out of the second apron. Well, I'm not saying that they would be a championship contender if they did this, but if they swapped an aging Kevin Durant, and maybe he comes to the Timberwolves in this deal, and they bring in Julius Randle, still in his prime, kind of they lack a lot of toughness and interior presence and scoring. It's a lot of perimeter stuff that's just kind of soft and not working in Phoenix. I could absolutely see those two teams having a conversation come early July, Dukes.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, they're going to continue those conversations. Those conversations predate certainly July. The interest in bringing Kevin Durant here is legit. It's real. I just wonder if in the end, James Jones in Phoenix says, I need Jaden McDaniels. That if I'm moving Kevin Durant to you, not to Houston, not to New York, not to somewhere else, because there's going to be 3, 4, 5 teams heavily in the mix for KD. So if Phoenix says, I need Jaden McDaniels, what's your answer? To me, it's a no. I am not moving Jaden in a deal for Kevin Durant. So if it comes down to that, now the Wolves have Detroit's first-round pick. They have a really good second-round pick, by the way. They have Utah's second-round pick, which will be pick, 32? Mm-hmm. I mean, that second-round pick the Wolves have in June is incredibly valuable, but certainly having Detroit's first-round pick 17, 18, somewhere in that ballpark, a valuable trade chip. You could move Dillingham. You could move some of these young pieces if you want to, even Terrence Shannon Jr., if you want to. with Julius. So I think Phoenix is going to certainly listen. I just wonder in the end, what does Houston offer? Like, what does the Rockets' future look like? I get it. The Rockets want to see what this core can do. They are the clear-cut 2 seed. They rested a bunch of guys last night. Unfortunate for the Wolves. The Rockets rested a bunch of guys at the LA Clippers last night. So the Clippers won pretty easily, right? But Houston is going to be the 2 seed. Does the 7 seed upset Houston in the first round? Certainly seems possible. So at that point, does Houston say, okay, we gave this core a chance. We'll move some of this core to get KD. Houston, to me, would be the team to watch for competition for KD. But undoubtedly, Phil, the Wolves are going to be in on Kevin Durant. Even if the Wolves make it to the Western Conference Finals again, I think they're going to be in on Kevin Durant.
Yeah, juicy.
Dukes, 2 weeks from today, the Fillmore, NFL draft, the party, the draft, the Vikings. They might trade up. They might trade down. You are going to be there. It's going to be a great time. What are you hearing buzz-wise as the draft approaches from a Vikings perspective?
Yeah, I mean, open-minded to all sorts of possibilities. Certainly moving back from 24 makes all sorts of sense. I had a nice conversation with Dan Orlovsky of ESPN on Tuesday late afternoon. He told me from his correspondence with a number of front office individuals that there really isn't much of a difference between picks 5 and 30. So if you're moving back from 24, can you move back late first or early second, still get a guy that you really, really like? Or it's possible, because there isn't much separation between picks 5 and 30, at least in Orlovsky's mind, that you may have a top 10 grade on a guy that falls all the way to 24. So it's an easy way out, right? It's easy for me to say, Judd, like, let me see on Thursday night, the 24th, 2 weeks from tonight, how exactly the draft board shakes out. But moving back, like, I don't see a scenario where they move up, for example, but moving back. But okay, takes 2 to tango. Who is moving up? Like, do you need somebody to fall in love with Jackson Dart or Milroe, the Alabama quarterback who's making the rounds, all sorts of visits? Is that the scenario where some team wants that 5th-year option on the rookie quarterback? But certainly I would look at, left guard, right? That Brando can be your swing guy, so you can upgrade. You could get a starter immediately at left guard, whether it's Jackson from Ohio State, somebody like that Zabel, maybe of North Dakota State. Although you look at the history of Kwesi's 3 drafts, taking a kid from a small school really high, I'm not saying like he wouldn't do it, but there's enough of a body of work now through 3 drafts. I don't know. But certainly they've done a ton of homework on Zabel. Like we all know that. But I wouldn't sleep on wide receiver. I wouldn't sleep on the safety from Georgia, Starks, like Orlovsky told me, the homework he's done. I mean, he'd be excellent in a Brian Flores defense. So, there's a few positions certainly in play. Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon, bringing him in for a visit, all the work they did on him in season, right after the season, in addition to the visit this week, right? So, interior of the defensive line, certainly in play. Cornerback would surprise me. Like, unless I hear something else, I don't know if they go cornerback with their first pick. Maybe later on, but, you re-sign Murphy. Flores pushes hard for Rodgers. They still have a really healthy opinion of Blackman. McLaughlin and, Okudah. I mean, that's see if there's something left there. I don't know if there's a future for Okudah beyond 25, but, just that threesome of Blackman, Rodgers, Murphy. I don't know if you need to go cornerback in the first round. But if you move back, I mean, that certainly opens up all sorts of different possibilities. But Orlovsky also told me he thinks there's a bunch of wide receivers, the kid from Iowa State, some others, that would be good fits in Kevin O'Connell's offense. That would be possibilities if you move from 24 to, say, 33 or 34. There's a bunch of receivers in that mix.
We'll do some rapid fire scoops here in just a moment. But first, don't sleep on Pep's Legit Pizza, the best frozen pizza on the market, at least in one pizza expert's opinion, myself. Crunchy, stone-baked, cracker-thin crust, zesty tomato sauce, some of the best ingredients you're going to find in that frozen pizza section. It gives you that authentic at-home pizza parlor experience, those throwback pizza parlor vibes when you sink your teeth into a legit pizza. Definitely lives up to the namesake. You can find out why at a grocery store freezer section near you. Legit pizza. And Underdog is back in the mix here for baseball season. Dex?
Baseball season, you got the Masters going on. Just watch Scotty Scheffler drill a 62-foot putt on the fourth hole.
Wow.
You can get in on the Masters. You can ride higher or lower on scores. Heck, you can actually do higher or lower if the guy's going to make the cut or not. Underdog, go download it. Promo code SCORE when you sign up for a deposit match. Send me those pick'ems that you're winning on. I would love to see your wins at Underdog. Go to download it on the App Store, the Google Play Store. Promo code SCORE for a deposit match.
Was that a birdie putt, Declan?
It was a birdie putt.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Wasn't sure it was an
2
eagle
under.
putt, but okay, birdie. Good for Scotty.
2 under. Let's go. So, Dukes, give us a minute or two of rapid fire scoops here. What else is left in your scoop bag?
All right, so Pablo Lopez, grade 1, hamstring strain. Certainly anticipate him going on the 15-day injured list. Zebby Matthews starting on Sunday at Target Field against the Tigers, but nothing is official. But certainly those close to Zebby, I mean, it matches up. Zebby, Pablo, both started the other night. So it makes all sorts of sense for Zebby to start on Sunday, but nothing is official quite yet. We were over at CHS Field on Wednesday. Brooks Lee, he'll play the rest of this series at CHS Field for St. Paul. Then I think that opens up the possibility for Brooks being in the Twins lineup on Monday at Target Field against the Mets. But to me, he still needs to perform. It's not like Brooks kicked serious ass last year when he came up. But I think even just from a defensive perspective, he could certainly help. But if he performs relatively well the next few days, I think Brooks Lee being back in the Twins lineup next week makes all sorts of sense. The Gophers men's basketball program lost out on Kyan Evans, the transfer point guard from Colorado State. His dad told me, hey, the Gophers were in it until the end. There were plans to visit after this dead period, which expires today. But hey, North Carolina, Hubert Davis, blue blood, came calling, came offering millions of dollars. Hard to compete with that. The number I heard was $2.2 million. I know some people have floated $2.5 million. It's north of
That's
two.
like double
Okay,
the
so-
entire Gopher budget, right?
Well, they've got a little bit more now with revenue sharing and what have you. But
Okay.
yeah, they certainly weren't offering Kyan Evans $2.2 million. I can tell you that much. There was heavy interest. Don't get me wrong, but not at $2.2 million. How about the money I heard on Pharrell Payne last night going from Texas A&M to Maryland? Pharrell, the former Gopher of Cottage Grove, north of $2.5 million. Even in a year, everything has changed.
That's wild.
Payne went to Texas A&M for right around $575,000, somewhere in that ballpark. 1 year later, $2.5 million, north of $2.5 million. Now with revenue sharing, in addition to NIL, it is freaking nuts. Texas Tech paid Toppin, who would have been probably a top 25 NBA pick. But guess what? If you're pick 25 in the NBA draft, you're not making the money he's going to make in Lubbock next season. $4 million.
Yeah.
And think
That's
about
crazy.
it. College, you play at most, 38, 39 games? You go to the NBA, some G League, what have you, you're playing way more than 39 games. So get $4 million for like 40 games.
It's crazy.
It is freaking nuts. But anyway, I was in contact with somebody with the Gophers. They told me they're still after one more big and a couple guards. They grabbed a big from Tim Miles and San Jose State yesterday. The young man told me via Zoom that Boise State was the toughest school to say no to. So the Gophers are still working the portal pretty darn good. Just unfortunate, but I don't know what the heck you can do when North Carolina comes calling, offering millions of dollars. The Gophers were not in on Kendall Blue, Eastridge High School, St. Thomas, played for Johnny Tower the last 3 years. He's off to Nebraska. He got paid, right? That was the reason why Kendall entered the portal. Unfortunate that the Tommies lose him, but hey, I get it. Go earn your money while you can. And so he's off to Nebraska, but the Gophers were not in seriously on Kendall Blue. Speaking of Johnny Tower, Isaiah Johnson-Arrigu from Totino Grace went to Miami. Jim Larinaga retires, transfers to Iowa. Fran McCaffrey gets fired, so he re-enters the portal. St. Thomas, Johnny Tower has a legit chance to land Isaiah Johnson-Arrigu, plus Daniel Freitag, who played at Bloomington Jefferson, and Breck, played at Wisconsin last year for Greg Gard. the Tommies have a good shot to land him as well. And Trey Holloman, Cretin-Durham Hall, Michigan State. It looks like Villanova or North Carolina State, Baylor, outside chance, but he is going to get paid. So, hey, he had a great run for Tom Izzo in East Lansing, but Trey Holloman, we're talking about Kyan Evans at north of $2 million. Wait until you see the Trey Holloman money here soon.
Man, these kids, man. Kids.
Good
raking
for them.
it in.
Yeah.
Yep. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department.
Have you been to playoffstatus.com lately, Phil? So one of these predictor sites on the NBA, it's literally 50-50 on avoiding the play-in or being in the play-in. Yeah. So 15% chance and 35% chance for the 7 and 8 seed. They have a 17% chance for the 4, 11% chance for the 5, 22% for the 6. It's literally 50-50. Which
beat
really
Memphis
comes down
and it
to
flips.
tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight. Win tonight, really good chance you avoid the play-in. Lose tonight, really good chance you are in the play-in. Literally comes down to tonight in Memphis.
If they win out, they'll be in like probably the 5 seed.
Yeah, well, I mean, just look. I mean, the Clippers and Warriors play on Sunday. The Grizzlies and Nuggets play Friday. Even the Clippers at Sacramento on Friday. Sacramento's still trying to secure the 9 seed. You've got Dallas at Memphis on Sunday, which could have some meaning. You've got Denver at Houston on Sunday. Again, Houston may rest guys, but there's still a bunch of games that matter. But yeah, I mean, the Nets and Jazz should be layups. Now, watch. I'll have to eat those words. But Nets here tomorrow night, Jazz here on Sunday. The Wolves should have 2 layups of wins. So do they finish with 49 wins or 48? You get to 49. To me, you're the 6 or above. You get stuck at 48. You're probably the 7 or the 8. So just fascinating. Jalen Wells out for Memphis. So that's a big loss for the Grizzlies when thinking about how they will contain Anthony Edwards tonight.
All right, Dukes. Good scoopage. Enjoy your sports weekend. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. We'll talk soon. See ya.
Darren Doogie Wolfson here, Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.